The third annual Santa Barbara Endurance Races brought ultramarathon runners of all ability levels and ages to Santa Barbara's backcountry. Elite ultrarunner Jeff Rose won the inaugural 100-mile race from Rancho Oso Western Village to Divide Peak and back in 16 hours 32 minutes. The 100-mile course featured 30,000 feet of elevation gain over the distance. The endurance races also include runs of 50 miles, 100, 50, 35, 25, and 15 kilometers. 77-year-old Pat DeVita and her best friend Patty Landis, 70, crossed the finish line of the 50-kilometer race in 10 hours 34 minutes. Presidio Sports caught up with Rose and the 70-something superwomen for interviews.
The weather, was it really windy? Was it tough last night?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate to do it fast enough to get back down to the finish by 10:30, so I had a little taste of the wind at night when it was getting cold, but really by the time I kind of dealt with that for an hour or two, and then I was done, and so I definitely finished like pretty fortunate, knowing that for some of the folks that were out all night, it was definitely going to be cold, and through the day, the wind, I mean, it was blowing hard all day, but in the heat of the day, it was kind of nice, cooled us off a bit, and I mean, there were definitely times where you're kind of leaning sideways, the wind's blowing from this way, but then all of a sudden it'd blow from the other way and almost knock you over, and so it was definitely really windy, but overall I kind of liked, just for the cooling effect, and had to put a jacket on just for the last 10 miles, but...
Wow. Now tell me about the course itself. Was it pretty technical? Were there some areas where, there was pretty severe climbs? And
yeah, especially the very furthest point out towards Divide Peak, the last probably 6 miles out and back. So that 12-mile stretch was really just rutted, technical trail, and lots of steep ups and downs. Just, I mean, you were either going up something so steep you had to be walking up it, or so steep down that even some of the downhills were so steep out there that you were kind of walking down them. But most of the stuff back in this end was pretty smooth and good runnable stuff, and lots of up and down, but most of it was pretty gradual. And I was
on the steeps, were you able to keep your feet, especially on the down climb? I mean, you didn't fall or anything.
Yeah, I didn't take a fall the whole race. There was definitely some spots where you could have, for sure.
So, I mean, you've run all over the world, and you've run Western States. You set the record at Western States. How would you rate this course? Was it,
I mean, I would rate this pretty similar to Western States as far as like difficulty. I mean, I ran Western States almost an hour and a half faster than I ran this, but that was with the competition that Western States has, and a big part of that was just a huge group of us like just pushing each other. And so I think this is pretty similar to Western States is where I would rate it.
Now, how many 100-milers have you done now in your career?
This is my 8th.
800-miler, wow. And what's, do you just plan them out, you see, like you did this one because it was new, and it was...
Yeah, I like doing races that, if the races are new, or even if they're just ones new to me that I haven't done, and just travel to cool places that I had driven through here once years ago when I was like 18. I drove through Santa Barbara and just had this faint memory of, just Santa Barbara, like beautiful ocean here and these giant mountains over here, and that was all I remembered about it, but I thought there's got to be cool running there, so decided to go for it. So.
Now, I understand you have on the horizon, you're doing this huge race in Europe. It's like the
UTMB.
UTMB, yeah. What is that?
It's a race that circumnavigates Mont Blanc. So you start in Chamonix in France, and you run probably 50 miles or so around the south side of Mont Blanc, and you get into Italy, and I think you do about 25 miles in Italy, and then you hit Switzerland, and do like 20 miles in Switzerland, and get back into France and finish where you started. And it's kind of it's only been around, I think maybe this is the 8th year of the race, but it's become sort of like the world championship 100-mile race. I mean, it's just huge. It has like 2,500 runners. Wow. Just a huge event. So.
Have you run it before?
I was there last year, and it got canceled. About 3 hours into the race, they stopped it because there was just some really bad weather, and everyone was already really wet and cold, and we hadn't even gone up. We hadn't even done one of the big climbs up into you end up running like in front of glaciers and across, you know, snowfields, and we were just getting to the point where we were going to go up into some much higher altitude, and they decided to call the race.
What attracted you to something like this, to doing ultramarathons?
I don't know. I mean, I just like being out in the mountains and spending a lot of time outside. And it's definitely like, you know, doing the races, I feel like is just kind of an extension of, you know, I've always been interested in running, and I like being in good shape so that I can get out and cover a lot of ground and kind of explore, and you know, doing the races is sort of kind of almost a secondary thing for me. It's really more just about like getting out and running every day, and then kind of decided, well, I might as well do some races too, and now I've had a lot of success with it, so I've just done it.
Do you have a regular day job?
Not anymore. I've been just doing this for 8 months now. I kind of stopped my day job in August and just a runner now.
Yeah.
So,
What was that? What was the day job?
I was a cook.
Oh, really? Oh, so you're used to being on your feet all day.
Yeah. Yeah, actually kind of, in some ways, I feel like not doing that anymore. I think it was helpful in being, like, you know, doing these races where you're out for 15 or 20 hours, like working a job where I was on my feet all day. It was actually, I think, helpful in my training almost, just to be that accustomed to so much time on my feet.
So having been a cook, and now you're out there in the wilderness running, what about as far as replenishing your body, food, and things like that? I'm sure you have really good taste in food, but you're not carrying gourmet stuff on the mountain.
I mean, yeah, I've just definitely learned to just, you know, I use the like gels that are made just for, I don't even know, I mean, I guess they're food, there's calories in them, but they're like basically like you start to feel like you're a robot or something, and it's just kind of calories in, and I don't know, worry about eating tasty stuff the next day, or just accept that for a day you're going to eat really weird stuff. But
well, Jeff, do you have a rival? Is there a competition in the ultra marathon field for you?
yeah, for sure. I mean, there are several guys who, you know, on any given day we're going to be running really close, tight competition. And I mean, Western States that I won last year, I won by 6 minutes, you know, over 100 miles. It's like nothing. I mean, that's just like any little thing could have caused that to go the other way. And so I mean, there's plenty of people out there that definitely challenge me. And
What is some of the fears that you have going into something like this? You're like here, especially here in Santa Barbara, you really didn't know the terrain all that well. But what can happen out there?
I mean, it's definitely any race, just about anything I think can happen. And for me, I definitely don't get too caught up in like putting too much kind of like performance pressure on myself. So I'm just kind of like, I'm just going to go out and run and see what happens, and not really take anything for granted. And, you know, there's certainly all kinds of potential dangers, whether it's hypothermic or getting sick that your stomach's not taking anything, or getting run-ins with wildlife, or I mean, there's just so many things that could go wrong. And
Have you ever run into wildlife on a run?
a little bit, but nothing that's ever been dangerous or
Like a
caused
bear
any
or
trouble
anything like that,
or
or a mountain
anything.
lion?
No, saw a bobcat last night. That was kind of cool.
Well, where do you get this love from nature? You grew up in like an environment like that?
Well, I grew up in a really small town in upstate New York, and definitely just loved being outside. And then I moved to Utah for 5 years, and then up to Alaska for 5 years, and now I'm like living in Colorado in the school year because my girlfriend's going to school there, and in Alaska in the summers. And so I've just been kind of slowly through my life moving to more and more wild places.
Yeah. You really love Alaska, though. I know a lot of your runs are in Alaska.
Yeah, I love it up there.
You're the into the wild guy.
I guess. Yeah, I'm heading back there next week for 3 months. And
You're back in Juneau?
yeah.
So what's next on the horizon for you after this race?
Western States, I'll be doing that again this year in late June.
Okay.
And I might add one more race between now and then, but if it'll just be something kind of not a focused race. Western States is definitely the next big one.
So you try to keep the races maybe a month apart, to your body recover, and
Yeah, I generally race about once a month. That's pretty typical.
but the big one's the one in Mont Blanc.
Yeah, that's really Mont Blanc's really my main focus this year. And, you know, Western States also, but really more Mont Blanc.
Yeah. So this is almost like a tune-up. You're tuning up doing this one.
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, this was definitely not as, you know, not as much of a focus as some of the later in the year ones, but.
But the elevation here was pretty good, all right?
Yeah, so it was good tune-up for those, good training, kind of, and I mean, I love these kinds of like newer, sort of lower key events, more grassroots thing. Like it's really fun, and just relaxing and cool.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I
Sure.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Nice.
thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Oh,
Did the 32 miler. That was enough.
Oh.
The legend. 307, yeah. And this was my daughter. Yes. As beautiful as you. Oh, thank you so much. Mom, you look a lot like
Hey, that's the Queen Mother.
heard about last year. When they wanted to
Yeah,
pull
what was
you
it
out.
like out there?
And
Yeah,
you said,
it was
do you know who we
beautiful
are?
today. That's right, exactly
But my
what I
feet
said.
are like hamburger.
Do you know who we are? You're not.
Yeah, they look
Pat, and anyway,
Was,
I
how-
got some sand in my shoe
we had
early
water.
on. I should have dumped
we
it
can't
out,
help it if
and I
everybody's going to
didn't.
run and pass
Was
us
the
water.
weather okay?
You
Wasn't
know?
too windy?
Oh, the weather was beautiful.
And he said,
It
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
too
I know who
windy.
you are. Just go.
It kept us cool most of the day. And,
I don't know what you got in your glasses.
oh, I don't know, bug
Kleenex, I think.
And you did, it was 32 miles you did?
32.16.
Yeah.
This is 77.
I was
77 years old, huh?
She's amazing.
Yeah. Still putting one in front of
And
me.
done all the LA
Very
marathons, too,
slowly.
on top of that.
Yeah, she's a legacy runner for the LA Marathon. She's done every single one.
26 marathons.
Is that how many? 26?
Yeah.
Have you been running your whole life?
No, I didn't start till I was in my late 40s.
So it was like, what, 8 hours?
And I was
Pat,
ashamed to
how
go
long
running
do you
out
think
on the
we did
streets because no women ran in those days, especially older women, only the track girls.
Wait a minute.
So
it
I
was
would go
more
to
than
this
8 hours.
high school and run
No,
around the
because it was
track.
7.
And then gradually the running boom came with Jim Fix's book.
Right.
And then it got more popular and I started
So it would have been
venturing
like
out.
10 and a half hours.
And then I got on the trails, and that's been my love ever since. That was like 31 years ago. Or
These are my trails where I do a lot of
come
running.
out and crash in her house.
Yeah.
Right.
Get a,
Next week we have the Wine Country Marathon, and then the following week we're going to run on Ted Chamberlain, Ted Chamberlain's property. I've signed up for the 62 miler, and she's signed up for the 50K, so we'll see what happens.
So you guys are going to do the Wine Country Marathon next
Yeah,
week?
next Saturday. Runs right by my house, so you know this will be my 5th year that I did the Wine Country Marathon. And then next week the week after then we'll do the cross country up on Figueroa Mountain on the Chamberlain Ranch. So anyway, I wanted to run on my 70th birthday. I wanted to run 70 miles. On my 50th birthday, I ran 50 miles. My 65th birthday, I ran 62 miles. And my birthday was in February, and I haven't been able to do 70 miles yet because of the rain and weather conditions. So maybe next week on the Chamberlain Ranch.
All right.
Hopefully, if I finish the 62 miles, then I can run home to San Ynez and I'll have my 70 miles in. If I can talk Pat to pace me.